Roxy and this is another episode of my series USA versus Italy. In this series I'm just talking about the differences and the stuff I noticed between Italy and the US, particularly California because I live in California now. And as always, I always say that this is just my opinion based on my experience. If you had different experiences, you might have different opinions. And also, I'm not saying that Italy is better or the US is better in general. I'm just saying this is the stuff I noticed, and then based on your preferences and your lifestyle, you might prefer one aspect, one thing or the other, okay? And in this video, we're gonna talk about healthcare. So, in Italy, if you don't know, healthcare is free for all the Italians. You also have private hospitals or private doctors, but I have friends that have never paid for anything in their lives. So they never paid for a doctor, they never paid for medicine, they never paid for surgery, they never paid for anything. The only thing you have to do is make an appointment and wait for your turn, and that's it. I've used sometimes private doctors, but most people just use public doctors and public hospitals and stuff like that. In America, instead, you need health insurance, and if you don't have that one, you can't do anything. So I noticed that they are kind of expensive. I don't think there is one that covers everything. I think it's always like only a percentage, or until a certain number you pay and then they cover the rest, or there is a copay, so you have to, if you go to the doctor, you have to pay an amount and then the rest is paid by the insurance, etc. And something that surprised me a lot was that you also pay for the ambulance. So if you're crossing the street, I don't know, and you get hit by a car and you're unconscious and the ambulance comes, brings you to the hospital and they have to do surgery or something like that. So they help you out, and then after a couple of months, you receive this huge bill. And as I said before, sometimes the insurance doesn't cover everything. I don't want to even know what happens if you don't have insurance, because I guess you have to pay for the whole thing yourself. And it's crazy to me. Coming from Italy, I was shocked. Because in Italy, you don't pay for anything. You don't pay for the ambulance. So it's a huge difference. In Italy, I never had a problem with a doctor or a procedure or something like that. But here in America, as soon as I got here, I had an awful experience that I'm gonna tell you guys. Story time with Roxy! So this is what happened to me. I'm not saying that this stuff happens to everybody, but this is what happened to me. So, when I got here, since I moved to a completely different continent, my immunity system went down a little bit because, of course, my body was adjusting. There are different viruses and stuff like that. So, almost right away, I got an ear infection. So, I had fever and stuff like that. So, I went to the hospital, and this doctor was like, oh, you have an ear infection, otitis, I think is the name in English. So, you need antibiotics. I was like, fine. So, in Italy, you get antibiotics for like max 3 or 5 days. Like, I think I've never taken antibiotics for more than 5 days. But this guy gives me antibiotics for 2 weeks. And I was like, whoa, 2 weeks? It's a lot of days. But, I mean, he's the doctor, right? So I'm not gonna question it. I thought maybe I have a very severe ear infection. I don't know. So whatever, I took these antibiotics for 2 weeks and the ear infection goes away. Fantastic. However, after 3 or 4 weeks, I noticed that I have a bump on my leg, like in front of my leg, okay? So I have a bump there, and if I touch it, it hurts like a bruise, okay? It was like that sensation. And I thought, okay, so maybe when I stood up, I hit the coffee table, because that's where it was, the bump, okay? And I was like, okay, whatever. I'm a clumsy person. It can happen. The following day, though, I have another bump, symmetrical, in the same spot on the other leg. And that was strange. So I thought, okay, maybe when I stood up, I hit both legs on the coffee table, because it was on the same level. It was symmetrical, it was the same on the other side. And I was like, okay, whatever, I hit both legs, and maybe the day before I didn't notice the other bump. The following day, I have another bump on another part of the leg, and then the following day, the same appears on the other leg. Long story short, in a week or something, my legs are full of painful bumps. And I'm freaking out. So I go to the same doctor and I'm like, look at this, man. What is happening? I'm dying. And he goes, oh, this is a condition that has a very funny name. And I was like, well, this is not funny, man. I'm in pain. But whatever. I didn't say it. I just thought it. So he goes on and he says, you have an erythema nodosum. And this thing can have two causes. One, you have tuberculosis. Two, it's a reaction because you took too much antibiotics. And I'm like, man, it's the antibiotics you gave me for 2 weeks. And he's like, well, what if you have tuberculosis? And I'm like, first of all, I don't have a cough, I don't have fever, I don't have any other symptom. So I highly doubt that I have tuberculosis. Second of all, I'm from Italy, so I'm vaccinated. So I don't have tuberculosis, man. And he's like, what if you have it? What? And then he's like telling me that I have to do an x-ray, that I have to do a blood test, that I have to do the tuberculosis test, and a bunch of other exams. And I'm there thinking, no, you know how much is gonna be the bill for all this stuff? And I'm sure I don't have tuberculosis. So I was like, no man, I'm not doing any of this. If I buy today a plane ticket to Italy and I do all this stuff in Italy, it's still gonna be less expensive than paying for all this stuff here. So I'm leaving. I just wanna know, how do I fix this? How do I fix my legs? And he goes, well, there is no cure for this. You just have to wait 5 weeks. 5 weeks, guys! I had painful bumps on my legs for 5 weeks. So anyway, when I go home though, I'm freaking out. So I message my doctor in Italy and I tell him this whole situation. And he goes, well, the diagnosis is true. That thing happens only if you take a lot of antibiotics or if you have tuberculosis. However, if you don't have any other symptoms in the next couple of weeks, so you don't have cough, fever, anything, and you see the bumps going away, it was the antibiotics. If in a couple of weeks you start having cough or stuff like that, just do the test for the tuberculosis. You don't need to do the blood test, the x-ray and stuff like that. You just need one test. So I was like, okay, fantastic. So I just waited. I didn't have tuberculosis. The bumps went away. And then for a few months, every time I had something, I contacted my Italian doctor. He just sent me names of natural stuff, homeopathic stuff that I could find easily without prescriptions, stuff like that. I stopped using any medication, any drugs, because I was afraid of having weird reactions because they're so different from Italian stuff and I didn't want to die. So I stopped using any medication and I stopped getting sick. And maybe it's a coincidence, I don't know. But I stopped taking painkillers, any type of drug. Every time I felt something a little weird or stuff like that, I always use like natural stuff and I was never sick again. Yes, I could have like a little headache here and there, a little bit of sore throat because as you can tell, I scream a lot, but I was never like sick. I never had a flu again and stuff like that. Maybe it's a coincidence, I don't know, but this is what I'm doing now because I don't trust stuff here, okay? And that's it, this was my experience. I never had problems in Italy, and the only thing I can think of is that some of my subscribers told me that in Italy it's a little bit hard to find nutritionists that have experience with plant-based diets, while here in LA, last time I checked, there were like 5 in my neighborhood, so there are so many. So this is the only complaint I got. I don't have experience with that because I wasn't vegan when I was in Italy. I just know that some of my subscribers told me that they have a hard time finding someone, and if they find someone, it's very far, maybe it's only in the big cities and stuff like that. Hopefully it changes soon. And that's it. I hope you guys like this video. Let me know in the comments what your experience is with healthcare in your country, how it works, and if you have any other topics that you want me to talk about in this series. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye! Mwah.